Ascent Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Secrets to Happiness at Work, How to Choose and Create Purpose and Fulfillment in Your Work, by Tracy Brower, Ph.D., narrated by Marnye Young. Introduction. Happiness at work may seem elusive or out of reach at the moment because, let's face it, things have been tough. But there is hope. Lots of it, in fact. The coronavirus pandemic has been life-changing. It's one of those events we'll tell our grandchildren about, on par with the way life changed during the World Wars or the Great Depression. It's bigger than a lot of previous social shifts, not only because of its tragic outcomes, but also because it has affected so many of us at once and changed every aspect of life, from the most significant, work, income, health, to the mundane. Even small things have become challenges, from getting groceries to having coffee with friends. We've been in a constant state of flux, with forward progress followed by news of backward steps. We've had to continually reacclimate, regroup, and readjust, causing all kinds of mental gymnastics. Despite the hardships, anything this big also creates the opportunity for new thinking. If the size of the crisis is associated with the amount of new learning it can generate, surely our brilliance will be magnified many-fold when we emerge, post-vaccine, on the other side. Meanwhile, pre- and post-pandemic, happiness at work can be a struggle. As the classic wisdom says, find a job you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. For many, this may sound too good to be true. After all, work is, well, work. It is often thought of as drudgery, as something that must be done to pay the mortgage, put food on the table, and pay for the other things in life that matter more. But this concept of work leaves so much out. In actuality, work itself can be a source of joy. It can offer the opportunity for purpose and meaning, for challenge and learning, and for great friendships. We deserve nothing less, and a shift in our expectations can make a big difference in terms of creating this sense of fulfillment. The importance of a joyful work experience. A great work experience is important because it influences so many aspects of our lives. If we spend 80% of our time at work, simple math suggests that it will have an outsized influence on our lives. In addition, work influences our personal lives. According to the American Psychological Association, work spills over into our personal lives, and in my own research in Bring Work to Life, by bringing life to work, I found work-life challenges affect both men and women, both mothers and fathers, and all generations. In addition, work-life challenges are not reserved for those who are married or those with children. The work-life conundrum is something that almost everyone goes through at some point in their lives. Our experiences at work matter to our lives at work, but also to our lives in general. It's impossible to share our best selves with our families, friends, and life partners if we're struggling with incivility or high levels of stress at work. One study in occupational health science found work stress tends to negatively affect our sleep. Email also has an effect. A study published in the Journal of Organizational Behavior focused on incivility and found that when messages are rude or unnecessarily urgent, employees tend to experience adverse physical symptoms, negative emotions, and spillover stress they bring home to their partners. Additional research reported by the American Psychological Association found that stress at work also affects parenting. Mothers who experience incivility at work tend to feel less effective overall, resulting in more strict, authoritarian parenting, which in turn correlates with adverse effects for their children. Another research effort at the Wharton School found that if parents are unavailable to children because of long hours or work distractions, children experience negative outcomes. When work lacks joy, it can have far-reaching ripple effects. The opposite is also true. When work goes well, it can have impressive, positive implications for the rest of our lives. Troubled times can cause us to look at things differently, and new and expanded points of view are generally a good thing. In fact, the root of the word emergency comes from the Latin emergere, meaning to rise up or out. Both before the pandemic and now, joy is critically important to our overall well-being. True happiness and joy are greater and richer than just contentment. They are based on internal perspectives rather than external conditions and tend to be more long-lasting. Joy and deep happiness are related to feelings of awe and peace, but they are also multifaceted. We can experience joy as a result of tough challenges or painful conditions that we have survived. Most of all, joy is something we are empowered to create, far from something we simply hope to receive or for which we wait passively. Joy is an experience we can embrace, foster, catalyze, and cultivate. Let's start now. 1. Choosing joy. Work can be joyful, but it can also be weighed down with myths that we must dispel. It's really not about work-life balance. There is an alternative view. Our brains also have a bearing on our joyful experiences, and we can create joy through cultivating the right kinds of experiences with our work. Creating joy. Joy at work isn't something we should wait for. True happiness is something we can choose and create. When you're selecting a company, leader, or job, you can choose joy. When you're influencing your responsibilities and working together with colleagues, you can choose happiness. And when you're making sense of your work, you can choose a joyful approach. While this empowerment is heady, it can also be daunting. As Marianne Williamson stated, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. If we're capable of choosing joy, then we are also responsible for our joy. In terms of responsibility, it's a both-and situation. As individuals, we can appreciate this concept of agency, that we are agents of our own future. But there is also structure, the social systems and organizational systems that dictate many of our experiences. It is fair that we consider both, but also that we realize they are us. We can influence other people, we can lead, even if we are not formal leaders, and we can demonstrate our values. Socially speaking, the most important way people learn is through modeling, through observing other people, so we have greater influence than we may even realize. Simply through demonstrating our values and inspiring joy in our own work. Avoiding the myths. In the world of popular culture, there are a lot of voices claiming to have the best formula to achieve work-life fulfillment. However, much of this cacophony is just noise. In fact, a lot of our understanding of work-life fulfillment is nothing but myth. Some such myths include the following. The myth of drudgery. We tend to think of work as must-do drudgery, but in fact, work is a valuable part of our lives. In Being Mortal, Atul Gawande makes the point that one of the worst things we can hear is that we're no longer needed, or that our contribution is no longer a critical part of society. At its best, work should be fulfilling, and we should keep our expectations high for the role it plays in our lives. At a minimum, work is a means to important ends like providing for our families or paying for activities that allow us to grow and enjoy life. Either way, work doesn't have to equal a negative experience. It can be a rewarding pursuit. The myth of sacrifice. Another problem with the work-life discussion is that it points to sacrifice. According to popular lore, we can't have everything, but in truth, we can have it all, just not all at once. There are seasons of life, and some will be busier than others. While you're building your career and juggling your job, family, and self, things will be more challenging than when you're winding down and struggling to ensure that your contribution is still relevant. Enjoy where you are, and know that you will have it all over time, even if you won't have it all at once. The myth of separation. Fundamentally, work is part of a full life. While we may think we want to relax on an island for the rest of our lives, this may not be true for the longer term. After all, how much relaxing can one person really do? In a fascinating series of studies published in the Journal of Applied Psychology, people were asked whether they would still work if they won the lottery. The proportion of people saying yes varied over the years between 80% and about 66%. Some years it was higher, and some years it was lower, but overall, the majority of people responded that they would want to continue working, even if they didn't need to for financial reasons. Work is important because it's part of our lives and a critical way we contribute to society and feel valuable. The myth of perfection. One of the most damaging myths is the idea that there is a perfect job or career and that whatever we have today isn't enough. While striving for the next great thing is a unique part of being human, being satisfied with what we have is critical to happiness as well. In reality, your current role is an opportunity for learning and growth, whether the challenge is to excel in a perfect fit job or to survive where you are until you can make a move. The myth of value. Another myth our popular culture fosters is the idea that some work is inherently more valuable than other work. This is bunk. All work has dignity and value, no matter what kind of work it is. Recently, I engaged with a client who believed the most important work of their organization happened in the field, where they supported those in need. Unfortunately, this client was inadvertently devaluing the efforts of all the employees in the office who were supporting the field agents. All work matters, even if it is upstream from the jobs most closely connected to the end user or customer. Getting entangled in the myths of work and life can be disorienting and disheartening, but the realities are much more simple and meaningful. Work should be fulfilling, and you can have it all. Work and life are both parts of a whole experience, and there is enough great work to go around. In addition, there is no perfect role, but all work, no matter what kind, has importance and dignity. Why it's not about balance. Recently, a friend asked me the question, is work-life balance dead? My answer, I hope so. The work-life question is important, and it's vital that we continue to find solutions to the work-life challenge, but the concept of balance has never been helpful. It's too limiting. So what's wrong with balance? And what are the alternatives? First, work-life balance artificially separates work and life. Work is part of a fulfilling life, and work and life should be integrated as part of a whole experience. Even if your job doesn't give you shivers of joy with each new day, working is part of what each of us does and the contribution we make to society. In an ideal circumstance, work would provide purpose and meaning, but at a minimum, it is a reason to wake up in the morning, and it is a paycheck that helps support us and our families. Second, work-life balance suggests a precariousness that isn't helpful. A goal to balance suggests that things are hanging in the balance, or could easily get off balance, causing bad outcomes. It is more constructive to think of solutions that continue to evolve over shifts in life and work. Rather than falling or failing, you may have good days or better days or not so good days. These variations are normal, and it's more useful to think of life as always evolving and changing from day to day or year to year, rather than as a high-risk enterprise where things could go wrong with one misstep. Third, work-life balance doesn't think big enough. We deserve more than just balance. We deserve work-life fulfillment, harmony, and satisfaction. If we set the bar too low, we won't demand enough of ourselves, our leaders, and our companies. The opportunity is to believe that you can have more. Rather than having to make forced choices between two priorities, believe that everything is possible. How we talk to ourselves matters, and how we talk about issues makes a difference. Let's bury work-life balance and think bigger and better about work-life fulfillment in order to do a little less balancing and a lot more joyful living. Joy and brain science. We know more today about how the brain works than ever before, and in addition to being extraordinarily interesting, our knowledge of this realm can help us have better experiences. You can use brain science to inform how you think, how you work, and where you work. Being intentional about all of these can help you love what you do and be even more effective, and cultivate joy. Go deep. In his book, The Shallows, Nicholas Carr demonstrates how our internet usage has rewired our brains. We think superficially, skimming, glancing, and scanning, rather than reading or processing more deeply. Cal Newport, in his book Deep Work, advocates for focusing, contemplating, and concentrating. His contention is that this distraction-free thinking has become increasingly rare and is a skill we must learn or relearn. In fact, empathy, so critical to our humanity, is impossible without deeply considering others' situations, and the ability to solve problems and develop ideas cannot happen effectively without a depth of thought. Take breaks. Many people avoid taking breaks in the name of efficiency, working through lunch and avoiding the break room except to recaffeinate for the next meeting. In fact, breaks are important to help the brain recharge, particularly breaks away from the office, according to a study in the Scandinavian Journal of Work and Organizational Psychology. Another study in the Academy of Management Journal shows it's also impactful when you have your own choice of what to do during your lunch breaks. Rather than the obligatory working lunch, being able to choose your activity is helpful to recovering your energy. Get moving. Our brains are also wired for the movement of our bodies. Research at Oregon Health and Science University found quick bursts of exercise can boost memory and learning. Take a walk, stretch, or get away from your desk for a round of jumping jacks. If suddenly rising from your desk for rowdy activity might be career-limiting in your company, by all means, find a private space for this one. Socialize. Our brains are most rejuvenated and ready for the next task when we take time for socializing. One study published in the International Journal of Nursing Studies demonstrated that nurses who took breaks to socialize with colleagues had reduced stress and were less likely to leave their jobs. Another study published in the Journal of Organizational Behavior showed taking breaks with a social focus tended to reduce negative emotions during the workday. Find green spaces. A large amount of research summarized in Science Advances has suggested the importance of nature for our brains to function optimally. One of the most recent studies at the University of Washington pointed to enhanced cognitive function and mental health when people were exposed to nature. In fact, another study published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology found micro breaks, quick moments away from a task, looking at a roof planted with greenery, helped improve performance in a task requiring attention and accuracy. Go toward the light, but not too much blue light. One of the most requested features in offices is access to natural light. In addition to the natural human desire for light and views, natural light has been proven by studies published in the JBI Library of Systematic Reviews to have positive effects on health, stress, and productivity. Compared to full-spectrum natural light, ongoing research published in Applied Ergonomics shows that blue light, the light at the beginning of the light spectrum, and that comes over the horizon first at daybreak, tends to suppress melatonin and tell the brain to turn on. This has implications for sleep and circadian rhythms. Too much blue light, the kind that is emitted from devices, has many negative impacts, leading to everything from depression and disrupted sleep to obesity. For better sleep and health, reduce exposure to blue light, especially at night. 2. Choosing purpose. Create joy by pursuing your passions, but also consider your perspectives. In addition, choose to embrace happiness by fostering plenty of optimism. Passion. When experts provide advice on how to have a great life, following your passion is a frequent mantra. Just find what you love, they tell us, and you will have greater levels of joy and work-life fulfillment. This is true, but the process of finding purpose and pursuing passion can be mystifying for many. It just seems awfully big and significant. How can we consider something so heady when we're just trying to bridge the distance from our morning coffee to our evening glass of wine? Embrace the first person. First, when you consider what you love to do, put yourself in the first person. Imagine yourself in a situation you might love. Rather than considering the situation in the third person, from a distance or in the abstract, imagine yourself actually doing the tasks or activities associated with what you're considering. An Ohio State University study found first-person envisioning fools the part of your brain that pays more attention to common biases or social judgments. Don't let limiting beliefs like men are less suited for careers in early childhood education or women should steer away from the sciences override your preferences. It turns out, imagining yourself in situations can help you establish a more clear sense of your passions. This can and should shape your pursuits. Give yourself some advice. Another helpful lens on your preferred path comes from the value of hindsight, which researchers at Clemson University studied. Ask yourself to consider a younger you and give yourself advice. The value of perspective isn't new. George Land and Beth Jarman wrote about the power of thinking backward from perfect in their classic 1990s book, Breakpoint and Beyond. Backward induction is a mathematical reasoning concept in which you place yourself in the future and then reason backward from that future point to facilitate decisions to get you there. So, in order to give yourself career advice, take a twist on backward induction and start from what you know today and work backward. According to the Clemson study, the most compelling advice fell into the categories of education, self-worth, and relationships. So focus on these for a new perspective on your passion, and ask yourself the following. My education. What would I do differently in terms of my education? What has worked, and what can I build on? What am I curious about? In what areas might I continue to seek learning or development? My self-worth. What are my best contributions? In what situations have I felt most fulfilled and rewarded for my talents? What mistakes have I made, and what would it be wise to avoid in the future? My relationships. What people must have been most helpful to me, and how might I build those or similar relationships? Which people have sucked me dry and should be avoided moving forward? A wise colleague had a regular ritual where she and her husband, on their anniversary, would open a bottle of wine and reflect on their past year and set goals for the year to come. Another colleague would regularly create a vision board with his partner and then keep it in front of himself each day of the coming year. These are smart approaches to emulate, helping to keep purpose front and center in your life. Perspective. You've given thought to your passion and reflected on your priorities, but what about your own perceptions? How you achieve purpose and your journey to fulfillment are as much mental as they are about your approach to work. As the saying goes, change your thinking, Change your life. Here's how. Empower yourself. The most important thing to remember is that you're empowered to create your own joy and purpose. I've said it before and will repeat it again because it's so important. Don't fall into the trap of believing you must find just the right role to be fulfilled, or that it's the responsibility of your boss or your company to create meaning for you. Your work matters, and you can foster your purpose and create meaning for yourself. Focus on 3 things. When people have a sense of purpose, they say it is the result of 3 elements. Having purpose is about feeling connected to something larger than yourself, knowing your work matters to that bigger thing, and realizing your work's importance to people. You want to contribute to your organization's financial results, sure, but it's really knowing how you affect people that will get you out of bed in the morning. So how do you move toward these 3 elements of purpose? Make a mental logic train from your work to the things that matter most. Perhaps you handle applications in the college recruiting process. Your work matters to the students who are shaping their futures. If you welcome guests at the neighborhood fitness facility, you're making a difference in their positive feelings toward their health goals. You get the idea. Connect what you do, no matter what it is, to its broader significance and its impact on those around you. Be clear about your unique talent. As you think about your contribution to the whole, remember how your talent is unique. Remind yourself how your unusual sense of humor lightens the day for everyone, or how your second-to-none level of organization provides structure for things to get done effectively. Reinforcing how you bring special value to the whole is a big part of feeling fulfilled and purposeful at work. Think beyond your work. As you're shaping your perceptions, also remember your overall purpose in life is made up of more than just your work. You also serve your purpose through family, relationships with friends, and contributions to the community. Ironically, feeling a sense of purpose at work can also be built through considering your larger purpose beyond work. Factor in the non-work contributions you make, like coaching Little League or building houses for low-income families on the weekends. When your purpose is met in multiple places, family, friends, community, it's that much easier for your work to feel satisfying because it's one part of a holistic perspective. Ultimately, a change in perception requires self-awareness. Surely the saying is true that when you change your thinking, you change your life. And your purpose at work is a great place to start. Joy through optimism. Optimism seems like a straightforward characteristic, a simple spotlight on what's good and future-focused, but it is actually quite a powerful attribute. From a longer life to better performance at work and satisfaction with your job, it has some seriously positive effects. Optimism is helpful because those who are optimistic tend to bounce back more easily from difficult situations. They are more resilient. In addition, they are thought to have better control over their emotions and may make better overall choices about diet, exercise, and other habits such as tobacco use. When you face stress at work, an optimistic view can help you cope in healthy ways. Or when you're passed over for the promotion, you'll be able to recover more easily and keep doing great work toward the next opportunity. Optimism is related to a growth mindset, which means optimists believe they can change their circumstances. They are more likely to take positive actions to create their own futures, rather than viewing themselves as having fixed sets of skills and traits that can't change or adapt. If you're facing an especially tough project at work, an optimistic approach can keep you motivated to try new solutions. So you're sold on optimism, but how to be more optimistic? Here are a few tips. Be present. One of the hallmarks of pessimism is worry about the future and negativism that can spiral out of control. One of the strategies for optimism is to stay more focused on the present. In fact, A study from MIT found middle schools.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?